Well, I'll start. I can start with a couple of questions that I have.
Go on then, Andy. Perfect.
Okay, so Ryan, I got a couple questions here because I think I know the answers, but I'm not sure because I've not tried it myself. What you did was you took, you had whatever 2 bars or whatever that was of a section, and you made a clip that encompassed that whole thing. What if your clip was only a portion of that? In other words, let's say
only a portion.
So let's say no. See, right now you're changing it, so it'll change it. So do me a favor, and write something over a long period of time, like let's say 3 or 4 of those snare hits.
Oh, I understand. Well, let's undo. Oh, oh, by the way, this is kind of a. Oh, I was gonna say it won't let me do it now. I was gonna. It's funny when you get the Pro Tools has F-bombs. I just think that's kind of strange. It just gives you an error message that's all Fs, and I'm just kind of fascinated
F-bombs.
by that. So I'll go in here. I was going to basically undo that and then just render a clip over that, but I think I understand what you're saying. So if I go from here to here,
right,
and I do something like we'll just do another. Let's see. We'll just pick randomly another
something that's different.
Preset
leave it there so it's got a different mix parameter so we can see it clearly. So just print that.
Right. Yes.
Great. Now create a Now create a small clip that is only a small portion in the center of that.
Right. So the automation is here, and we just want to.
Can I make
basically just do this?
Can I make a request?
Our clip here.
That we just open up a few extra automation lanes underneath the snare effects track, so we can see a few of them being written and copied.
Certainly.
So undo what you did, Ryan, because I don't think I'm explaining it well. Create a small clip that's only the penultimate snare. Penultimate, the next one. So what I want to do is I want to create a clip in a place where there are no automation breakpoints.
Right.
Now, drag that puppy.
Right, and what happens if I move this over?
Right. So let's say if you move that, yeah.
All right, so let's.
There you go. I just wanted to double check. I thought I knew the answer to that question, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, very actually very interesting just to take pieces out of that and move them around. What do you have an idea for how to use a clip in this way, or the value of that?
Just
the functionality.
Just the functionality, but I mean, sometimes I just wanted to make sure you didn't have to capture the beginning and end automation breakpoints. I was nearly sure that you didn't have to, but I just wanted you to confirm it. So if you want, basically all you have to do is you're taking a snapshot of whatever that section is. So you could take that small clip, drag it over to your right into an area where you don't have it, and then you could use the TC trim tool or not even the TC, just a regular trim tool, and stretch that out, and it can be whatever it wants. So you can take small snapshots and just have a whole bunch of tiny little clips, and you can use those for whatever you want. It was more of a technical question than one I had a specific application in mind.
I'd like to make an observation, if that's okay. And Ryan, you might not be aware that I'm the simpleton out of the three of us, so this might be blindingly obvious to everybody, right? But normally with MIDI clips, you're copying the event data, aren't you? When you copying clips over, you've got to make sure that the beginning of the event data is within the clip boundary, otherwise you're not going to copy it.
That's right.
And I was thinking initially that when you are moving the containers around, that you have to take the breakpoints with you, because otherwise the breakpoints don't move. But that's not happening here. It's taking note, the containers are taking note of where the automation line is, and it's moving the actual automation line around, and then inserting the breakpoints where it needs to make those movements.
Yes,
that's cool.
Yeah, and kind of specifically because there's automation already on the track somewhere. So as long as the position is different, it's maintaining that.
And by the way,
which is kind of the whole point of it anyway.
and by the way, if you had
Completely.
motion inside of that area, that would copy that too. So frequency sweeps, all that stuff, you can go absolutely insane. Which is it's the way that that aux tracks and instrument tracks, or aux tracks and audio tracks, deal with automation follows edit. And like I said, I was 100%, nearly 100% sure that this was what was going to happen. What's happening in an instrument track is, yes, it's containing MIDI data, but that's not what you're seeing here. What you're seeing there is Pro Tools automation data, and that's able to be picked up, without having to pick up the breakpoint.
I was just thinking about that because it's the two different types of data that it's working with.
Yep.
Mm.
Brilliant. This is just so smart. Now,
Yeah, it's
go ahead.
yeah.
So
Go ahead.
So yeah, so my second question, and
Back to you.
my second question, and I hope I'm wrong with this, but I don't think I am, is it's an all or nothing container, is it not?
Yes. It's this is your singular, clip view that is no respecter of automation persons. So it's so it certainly is a global container for
It's the
everything.
most inclusive
and
thing.
So it has no regard for parameter identities.
Yes.
This is taking a really weird turn.
And Andy,
This
it is an equal parameter identity.
It is an
Anders,
equal parameter
Anders, we need you back. Andy's getting a little bit wayward. Help! I can't handle him alone.
So I guess that's the one thing that that's the one limitation you just have to be aware of. Would you say that this is something that you use for effects more than subgroups, or do you use it just everywhere?
Yeah, I actually use them kind of in equal measure. I just in the event that you might ask such a question, I actually was mixing a project yesterday.
He's got your number, Andy.
And so I just imported a couple of these tracks out of another project, just to show kind of two examples of how I was using it here. And let me see, where's my... Oh, I think I imported... Oh. Is this in here? Oh, interesting. I have tracks missing out of... There we go. Get them in here. There it is. Okay. The interesting thing about folders is that you can activate and show the folder again and nothing inside of it.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Yep. We all get caught in that.
Okay. So, all right. So just two examples, real quick, that I had done here, and so this is an example of a track where I have this is an audio track. I know the signal is quieter, but this is a track with ride cymbals in it that I just added a reverb to. But in the track that I'm mixing, there's a cut where all the drums basically kind of cut for a specific point. And I don't want the reverb to carry out as well. And so this is a reverb that I'm putting just to kind of soften and extend the ride cymbals out. But at this position, I wanted the reverb to cut at the same time that the audio, as you can see, the audio clips were muted there. And so that just looks like this. So the reverb cuts along with the audio, and otherwise that would just be a mute view, that would be here. But what happens is that comes in handy down the line because I'm dragging and dropping mute clips just very quickly to fill in areas that I want that to happen again, along with the audio edit.
Could you almost
And
create
so,
those?
so that's another effects example, but it's...
Sorry, we've got a little bit of a delay on the line, so it's forgive me.
Sure.
You could almost set those up as like MIDI clips that you could drag on to the timeline and have them available in the clips list for just when you need them, right? So we did a show a couple of weeks ago where we were kind of recreating expression maps using MIDI clips and just having them available as tools to drag onto the timeline whenever you wanted to change articulations on an instrument. It almost seems like we could do the same thing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, once you have a clip, it's in the clip list. You can snap clips, into specific positions in the timeline. There is, since just before I forget this too, because I want to say this also, just in further testing of this and working through projects, I've kind of discovered that, unfortunately, right now, for instrument tracks, when you save a track preset, so if I want to save an effects track preset that has clips on it, it doesn't appear that the clips are saved with the track preset unless MIDI is involved in the clip for an instrument track.
Interesting.
Which is kind of an interesting thing. So, so I'd like to be able to save automation clips that way. But I started a conversation with Avid about that to see, what their feedback and everything is on that. So the clips aren't saved with track presets, but they are saved on tracks. So you can obviously save it as a part of any kind of template, any kind of Pro Tools template, or and work with things that way. Yeah.
But if you put a MIDI note in there, wouldn't it?
Yeah, just a single.
Well, that's probably true.
Just a single dot down in C0 or something.
Yeah, any random, any arbitrary note, probably
way out of the testatura of the specific instruments that you're connected it to.
Oh, look who's using his words.
This guy.
I'm gonna get teased for that forever.
It's a beautiful word.
Let me.
I have to pack that away when I have 3 T's and Scrabble that I can use.
Boom. So
I can make it work.
Let me. I know you're going to show another example here, but let me interrupt you if I can. Do you use? How extensively do you use different playlists to get different things going on, to change different kinds of mixing approaches?
I think it's a really good idea. I haven't experimented with playlists a lot, but what that would allow you to do is save very specific groups of automation in the background without anything actually applying in real time.
That's a great point.
Which is actually very clever.
You know what you could do is you could take, let's say, and I'm just thinking out loud, let's say you've got a song and you've got 3 or 4 or 5 reverbs. You have the clips that go from the beginning to the end of the song, and you comp to your main playlist, because you can even change your playlist and preview in place as your session's playing. You can scroll between the different playlists and then just pop it into your main timeline, and you can comp your mix. Oh, that's what I'm going to do next. That's definitely what I'm going to do next.
No, and you can do, but you can further that by just adding a plus 1 dB clip, a plus 2 dB clip, a plus 3 dB clip, like timeline clip, almost kind of a thing to drag and drop.
Jeez, that's awesome.
Adjustments.
That's amazing. That's so inspiring.
So as an example, if I got to be specific now since I'm in. How do you spell quarter? How do you guys spell quarter in the UK?
That works for me.
I don't know. But just as an example, having the having all quarter clips, right? So if we're on our playlist view,
I think if we were on Facebook, I think it would be spelt with a K.
Oh, right. Right, playlist views for instrument tracks. Interesting. So we're just manually switching here, and so let's see. You're gonna let me do this? So Pulse, I'm just gonna copy that and move it over. I was getting ahead of myself on quick keys there a little bit, but I could store, for example, this is a filter gate track with presets, and so I could store a quarter note timing clip on one playlist, an eighth note dotted timing on another playlist, as you were pointing out, and just kind of copy and paste them in to a main playlist wherever I want. But what's actually valuable about that is that you can start the track at something like this. That'd be a default state where there is nothing governing, and then just copy and paste pre-saved clips back in here. And what's great about that is you can start a track or start a project with nothing happening at all. You don't have to have active clips on the timeline anywhere, snapping values that you're trying to use. So very good idea, Andy.
So do you even use aux tracks anymore?
No, I haven't used auxes in a couple of years, and I think arbitrarily, if I just need a quick effect, I might throw an aux in. But yeah, as much as I'm conscious of it, and I have a mix template, I have a composition template that has 100 tracks in it with a whole bunch of instrument tracks and everything lined up. Everything is all instrument tracks.
Brilliant. It's just brilliant.
And I'll say this too about like music mixing or post mixing. It's also kind of a more specific way to be able. How often in post production do you have a lot of instrument tracks, but it becomes another track show hide opportunity as well to just be able to quickly show all instrument tracks and see just what your effects are doing, for example, or that kind of thing.
No, this is absolutely
so. But yeah, just all instrument tracks for me moving forward.
And this is maybe way down the rabbit hole. And I'm not sure that this would even apply.
My kind of question.
No, I just answered my own question. I was going to ask what the effect of mirrored MIDI editing would be on this, and I think the answer is none because it's not MIDI. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I can't think. Yeah, I can't think of any. Just thinking through that for a moment, but no, I don't think so. There are no active.
There's
MIDI
no MIDI
messages.
Yeah,
it's automation data.
Yeah, it's yep. Now this is just so cool, so cool. So
yeah, it's not to say that you couldn't. It's not to say that you couldn't use clips to store MIDI data in some way.
Right. What I was
thinking, if I were.
Yeah, what I was thinking is if you let's say you had, I was thinking post production, if you wanted to change something and have all the scenes that share that change at the same time, would mirrored MIDI editing work? And then as I was even asking the question, I think I answered it myself. No, because the data that is in there is not MIDI. That feature wouldn't necessarily apply.
Is this going to be a little bit different for continuous controller data? Because we've just been talking about automation for everything. So if we're talking about copying over filter controls on the instruments themselves, that's going to be treated as CC data, isn't it? It's not going to be treated as automation data.
Yeah, but it still goes in the box.
Yeah,
no, of course, yes. But...
And it's just interesting because this is where the MIDI control conversation comes back into Pro Tools too, because you're generally only using MIDI controller data directly in the session for instruments, because mostly only instrument plugins actually respond to that to controller data in the first place. So although, and that's what I'm trying to think of, is where where in a production workflow you could be using MIDI data to control an effect, and how that would actually be working in the background, because mirrored MIDI editing would actually be pretty neat that way.
It'd be great. I just don't think it would work.
If you have a clip happening in several places, you want to update them all.
Would that matter if the effect was being hosted inside the MIDI instrument?
Right.
Yeah.
If you would need a MIDI instrument with an open, it would be a MIDI. It'd have to be a MIDI effect of some kind with an open input.
Yeah,
so you're narrowing down what the plug-in or what the
I think for most of the workflows with this, mirrored MIDI editing is not what you want to do. Replace clip is going to be what you would want to do. Then if you want to make a change, you change one clip and you replace all the other ones. Not which isn't the end of the world. It's just a different way of working. So what's the biggest?
This is totally useless now.
I've changed my mind.
Goodbye. Okay, where were you going with that? What was your next question?
So maybe my last question is what are the gotchas? Okay, I'm going to a two-part question. What's the coolest thing you can do with this? as if you haven't shown us cool things all day. And what's the biggest gotcha for somebody who's just starting with this kind of workflow?
I honestly think the use of this is really in equal measure, just because this example right here that I had pulled up for you guys is just an example of automating a filter gate on a subgroup. So this is a filter gate plugin, and at this position you can see its quarter notes and different attack times and things, and at this position it's a dotted eighth note with a faster attack, and and so a bunch of these are running through one effect, and that's on a subgroup. I think the effects and subgroups all over the place. It's just very cool with. I think. By the way, just throwing this out there too, because I think I totally skipped this in my video demonstration, but even something as simple as a click track, which we're used to being on an aux, if you move a click to an instrument track instead, you can actually save clips that are quarter note click, eighth note click, that are jumping around in different values, for the tempo based on whatever
that's
recordist wants to hear.
That's so brilliant.
There are so many different and cool, ideas that you just come up with this. I think the gotcha is just, I think I explored this a little bit in one video. Was I think the one gotcha right now that we could probably use a little bit of help with is the way glide, trying to save clips of glide automation happens. If you'd like me to show that real quick.
Yeah.
And I think otherwise it just comes down to being aware of where the actual automation is, and just trying to keep track of everything. And maybe, as you saw earlier, when I moved a clip, what had happened to to values in between. So we were back here, and so when we pull clips away, from each other and do this kind of thing. And you can see as you're editing and moving things around, what's happening in between. So you can have kind of default clips. And I think that's kind of one of the ways I've been using it with effects, is that I have kind of a default clip. And so I might want this to come in here. And then from then on, it's always kind of the default clip. Forever, just to make sure that everything underneath is a very specific setting that I'm aware of. But if we go back to the glide example, what we had run into there, and I'll just use the filter gate down here as an example, is if I position my cursor and if everything is enabled for automation, I think we're set. We'll open our automation window again. That's already open over here. So just to make sure I know what I'm writing for. So we're going to start with a right to all enabled, a Control-Alt/ at this position. And I'll just have my attack showing there. And then here, if I want to do a glide to a different preset, and we're just going to pick another preset in here, and I'm just going to go, Shift-Alt/ for a glide to all enabled. All of these parameters are gliding. And so if we consolidate that piece right there, and I won't worry about naming it or anything, but what I've kind of seen with this is, and we'll just drag this out. We'll go to, I'm so used to doing it up there. Let's do it down here. So we can see the mix underneath. So this appears to work fine if we're trimming out the glide automation from start to finish.
Right.
And when we start to trim back is where we run into just some different kind of behavior here. So the glide is actually changing value, as a result of trimming that back, and then it maintains that when we try to trim it back out. So the real trick with glide automation is actually keeping the clip overall much shorter. So if I were to do this again, and I would say, let's just clear everything out and do the glide over. So I'll just pick another preset here. And Shift-Alt/ for that position. Whoops, I actually didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it back here. much shorter, very short clip, right? And so I think the point is to kind of have this kind of workflow involved with glide automation, which is have your clips very short, and then where you specifically want a glide to happen, I'm going to copy that down here.
And then you can always
and I
stretch
need
it
that
out.
to happen from here.
So let me ask
Yes,
a
you could always drag
quick
it out.
question. I'm sure you've tried this, but would using TCE trim fix that?
Oh, to edit?
The TCE trim tool.
Just TCE trim. So I actually put this to Avid because there is no TCE edit to timeline function for MIDI clips yet, or at least for things to work this way on an instrument track. So I put that to Avid, and they were reviewing that also, which would be pretty cool. So, okay, I change my tool here. Oh,
Wow.
Do it at all.
hello.
Even worse. Awesome. That's awesome.
Okay.
So the TCE trim tool not only doesn't do what I was hoping it would do, it doesn't do anything. Awesome. And by the way,
Boy, that is a rational. That is the rational solution, though. I like where you're going. with that.
So just because Ryan, you mentioned this. This is a discussion that Ryan, you brought this to us, to me and a couple other folks, and I threw it over to some of the product guys. Can't say when, but it certainly is an interesting idea. We are busy right now with some other things, but this is such a great idea.
Just a few.
So basically, your workflow. Let's say that you took this little guy here and you stretched it out and you figured out, oh, that's too long. What you would want to do then is undo, and then stretch it out again, right? So it's so stretching any.
Yeah, I think,
Yep, that makes sense.
or just replace. You
Or just
know,
replace it, yeah.
delete the clip, drag and drop again, stretch it out again.
Got it.
And not to diminish, too, Andy and I had one of the first conversations we had followed up about this in the background was the idea of what this would look like if this were incorporated in for individual parameters in in an automation playlist view, which would really be mind blowing. If you actually could adjust individual parameters on the fly and then kind of have this global clip over top, and
So clips view for automation.
and so
lanes.
kudos to you, Andy, for just taking it a step further. So that came up in an earlier conversation.
It's just such a smart way to work. It's fantastic. And Ryan, you explain it so well. Thank you. It's almost like you've got a lot of experience teaching.
Well, and I've practiced this a lot too. So I think the first day that I discovered this, I think I was running around the house, just screaming at just how cool it was, because I was automating an effect at the time, and I had several automation layers, and I needed it to change, every quarter note because of something I was trying to do, and I just started dragging, came to this and just started dragging clips around, and I just was so excited. If I did the video at that time, I would have just been totally a mess. So I think having practiced it now for a couple of years and come across a number of different ways to utilize it, it set me up for it pretty well, a little bit more. But no, I think what people do with this moving forward that I haven't even thought of yet, I think is going to be a lot
So
of
could
fun.
we call this a Summers clip? When you're creating it, let's call it a Summers
Please.
clip. And when we're
Yes.
editing it,
Okay.
we'll call it a Summers edit.
Pass the word. And Summers has to be part of every clip name that you use from now on.
Except for you have the
And scene.
see, you don't have that thing because
Yes, I can name it whatever I want, but
because if you named it Summer, it'd just
everyone
be
else.
haughty.
I'm not like that. But every clip for you from now on, Summers. Thank you.
Awesome. Shall we wrap it up there, chaps?
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's just been a really inspiring day. As Andy put it perfectly, it's a really inspiring idea, and just makes you think, what else is in there? What else can we hack to make our lives easier? It's just completely brilliant, and thank you for sharing it with us.
Just 20 more years, we'll figure out something
Yeah.
else. That's always been there.
Thank you for spending the time with us. It's been a real, genuine pleasure. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
So,
thank you very much for the invitation. It's fun. So let's keep growing.
Absolutely.
And thank you very much to you guys for watching. Hopefully it was useful. And pop some comments down in the comments box, if there is one. We're not quite sure. We're not quite sure at this moment how the back end of Pro Tools Answers is going to look, but I'm sure it'll be awesome. Thank you very much, guys, and thank you to you, and we'll see you in the next one.